Feminist organising.
Helen Crickard from Reclaim the Agenda. I've been working in the women's movement, I suppose, for the last 30 odd years.
Reflecting back, tell us about your involvement in feminist organising in Northern Ireland.
Well, it's funny, you never set out to be a feminist organiser or an activist. So I sort of drifted into it more whenever I was younger. And we grew up in a time with the height of the conflict. My sister got me involved with Youth Action and a young women's group. And so we used to go to a lot of workshops and seminars. And one of the things that really made me reflect on the inequalities we have was when we did one around women in media and how women were portrayed in the media. So it was all pictures, it was full-length pictures of women, and they talked about their outfits, whereas men's shots were all head and shoulders. So I very quickly realised that inequality was there in how we were portrayed, and also around advertising campaigns that were on. It was always a woman over the body of a car, things like that. So that sparked that. And then I was never really interested in doing any traditional jobs that women were set out to do. So I ended up just being self-employed for a number of years and just drifting. And then I got into get into the joinery, and I went to the Belfast Met and did my City and Guilds Advanced Craft in Carpentry and Joinery. And that was my trade for a number of years, working on different building sites and different jobs, mainly in a male environment.
How does the women's movement, do you think, bring about change?
Well, I think it's really important that people recognise and understand where we are. So you don't make change if you don't think anything's wrong. But I think once you see that there's something wrong, you want to create that change. So for me, it is about, like I say, education, but I don't mean formal education. I didn't really get a formal education. And I think it's about a journey, and it's about acknowledging things. So whenever you see that there is an injustice, then you can fix that. But quite often, if that doesn't affect you, then you can't change it. So if it doesn't impact you, you won't do anything about it. So for me, whenever I was young and seeing that the inequalities of where women were being treated, and also then from years working on different sites, you could see how women were treated. Even throughout my college days, whenever I was at college and doing the joinery, it was all that the boys were all asking me to help them because I was applying myself to the task, whereas they were like, they weren't as interested, whereas I was. So it is about education. It is about taking people on a journey. And I think that the inequalities that we're facing today are still a lot of inequalities we faced in the past. So there's been a lot of talk about feminism and superwoman, and women we're out working and at home doing the kids and doing all the shopping and doing all the cleaning. And I think all of those images around superwoman that were around my day, they're all blown out the window. So people realise now that it's not about us doing everything. It's about men doing their share and men having to step up to the plate and take responsibility for some of the things that are happening in the world.
Looking forward, what's next for the women's movement in Northern Ireland?
Well, funny, Northern Ireland is in a really bad place at the minute. So we've got that real divisive, toxic atmosphere out there now. I know social media can be really painful for people. It can be really difficult, toxic space. But it's also a space where we can share things as well, and where we can see all the global inequalities. So all of the negative things that come with that, like the Tate brothers, your man Peterson, all of those toxic incels and all of that's being spread around. Equally, there's as much more positive stuff, but good news will not travel fast, but bad news does. So I think while we're in a very dangerous space, I think we're in a very clear organising space, and I think a lot of the next generation coming through are not going to put up with some of the rubbish and crap that we went through. There's a lot of more laws to protect us. Whenever I was campaigning, rape was still legal in marriage. That's gone now. We've got laws to protect women in terms of sexual harassment, sexual abuse. We've got laws to protect women around gender pay and gender inequality. So we have a lot of that, but what we need is the cultural change to come with that. We need the laws. The cultural change is the bit we're working on, and I think that the next generation are going to do a fabulous job.